this one and pointing this
everybody's
finger.
blaming everybody.
Have they responded appropriately?
We still have the problem. With all the blame game,
That's right.
the problem still exists. You know why, CB? Simply because there are those in our society who feel that they are not worthy. They feel that they have no self-worth. They feel that they have no self-esteem. And they look at society and they see those who purportedly are successful in society and look at what they're doing in many instances, whether it's in the church, whether it's in politics, whether it's in the unions, whether it's any of our major institutions. They look at these people and they say, well, if they could get away with it, why not me?
And we are going to ask you to
Yes.
expound on that a little later. But what we're trying to say to this nation is, listen to the organizations that were approached and
Absolutely,
warned and
all.
encouraged.
Civil society,
and
all
encouraged
of them.
to become involved
Absolutely.
in instituting some kind of preventative measures.
That's it.
We went to the civil society,
Yes.
all of
them.
all of them.
I was the president. So you
Exactly.
know we invited all of them.
The professional organizations,
Yeah.
all of them, the accounting organization, the legal sector, we went to all of the medical organization. They did not respond. We went to the academic institutions from College of the Bahamas, all of the private academic institutions. The fraternities did not respond. We went even to the Junkanoo. You remember the night you and I
Yeah.
met with the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence, a well-attended meeting
On Bay Street?
on Bay Street, and we made the presentation.
Yep.
And they gave nice sounding
Of course.
responses.
Oh, yes. Very courteous.
Very little happened.
Yeah.
We went to everybody, including the criminal groups. We met with a lot of the criminal groups and
right.
criminals. And so we want this nation to know that all of these organizations
Well,
and entities were approached for us to avoid what we're experiencing now. And that's why, personally, I'm somewhat angry, you know. I came to that conclusion recently. I'm angry because following the initial failure of these organizations, and these are just some of the organizations we reached out to, following their failure to respond, we then decided to start the organization anyhow. We
Yes.
knew we were under-resourced.
No money.
No money.
Except one organization came forward. You remember? Albany.
Albany
Yes.
came forward.
Came forward.
And they...
Father McKinsey.
Albany came, well,
Yeah.
it was before Mackenzie.
Okay.
But the organization came forward
Yes.
and they gave us a generous sum.
They did.
And Commonwealth Bank
And Commonwealth Bank.
was
yes.
the second organization.
Yes.
Beside those two, there was a third individual who wishes to remain anonymous.
Okay.
So there would know
But we had very
also support.
Oh, absolutely. We had very limited resources.
Very
though.
limited resources, and we didn't mind the lack of financial resources if the people would have just listened.
Yes.
Because we felt if they had listened and heeded the warning, the resources would have come. Because in addition to having limited financial resources, we had limited human resources. We had no support.
Well, the first thing I believe, CB, we need to let the general public know, it's not that we feel we had the answers to everything. What
No.
we felt was necessary was to sensitize the nation to the ensuing problem.
And to call
this
them together.
epidemic.
And to call them
us
together.
together and say, let's close ranks on this early before this thing take over our
That's
country.
exactly what it was.
That's what we were
And
trying to do.
That did not happen. And
Yeah.
as I said, I am really angry because following their failure to respond, I became disappointed.
Yeah.
And
You are.
then following the disappointment was sadness. I was saddened because we were seeing what was happening every week.
Well, our children were
And
killing
I was-
themselves
I was
in the
pa-
streets.
I was particularly saddened
Yeah.
by the response of the church leaders because we were the ones burying these people every week.
If you remember, CB, you used to take us to the spot where the victim would have met his demise.
As
and
well as a prayer service.
we will hold a prayer service.
That's
You remember how many of those we would
After a
attend?
while, they were coming too fast for us to keep up.
These things were done not to dramatize the
No.
death of an individual, but rather to sensitize the nation that we have to address this problem. We have a problem.
And not only that, but
Yeah.
also to pray for spiritual cleansing.
And for the family.
Because whenever
Yes.
blood is shed in violence, and that blood seeps into the ground,
Absolutely, man.
it contaminates realistically, and it also contaminates psychologically that whole area. So we would go and offer prayers. We would take ministers and offer prayers
Absolutely.
for the healing of the land, for the healing of families, because very often the families of the perpetrator as well as the victim were so
Yes.
closely related.
I remember we held candlelight services
all over.
downtown and other. What I'm saying, and I think the general public really need to appreciate this point. This is our society. Society is made up of human beings, CB. Human beings. Our children, no less. These were the young men, mostly, who were being slaughtered on the streets. And what we say is, unless we address this, after a while it's going to get out of control, and the next thing we're going to know, CB, we're going to be in the state that we are in today.
Well, that's what we were saying,
Yeah.
and I trust that our viewers would appreciate that we are not calling out these organizations, and we try not to name organizations, but the sectors, the major sectors. It is not done to embarrass them.
No.
It is being done so that, one, the public will know and understand the failure of the leadership in these various sectors to, first of all, recognize what was happening and to prepare for it, and secondly, to ask a lot of the voices now to just, you know,
We hear a lot of voices clamoring
because
now.
I'm reminding them that when we needed their voice, it wasn't there, and they cannot say they didn't know because we went to them.
But we must have a plan.
Yeah, well, that's what we are saying, which we'll discuss in the
We
next
must,
segment.
yeah.
But we are saying, first of all, to close out this segment,
Yes.
that we do not need a lot of rhetoric out there, who's
sir.
right, who's wrong, because
No
truthfully,
finger pointing. That's not going to
truthfully,
help us.
we are all,
Yeah.
we all carry some blame
Absolutely.
to one degree or another. We're simply asking our people to accept that responsibility that we failed to accept back there. We're going to be right back, and don't go away.
Only love can save us now. Only love.